What's going on, restaurant owners? I want to tell you about the fun we're having and the connections we're making over at Restaurant Unstoppable Network. As a matter of fact, if you're enjoying the podcast, you're going to love the network because the network just mirrors what's happening on the podcast, but we're just going deeper and making connections. Not only am I connecting you with the leading restaurateurs on the podcast, I'm connecting you with the experts that they're going to become unstoppable. Just this week, the co-owners of Relish Bar and Restaurant in Houston, Texas joined us, and they brought their realtor with us, and we went deep into advice on site selection. We also had time to talk about tip pooling. It was great. You don't need to break the bank on restaurant coaching and consulting. All you truly need is peers, people who can reinforce that you are taking the next right best step, and access to an amazing network of the best. I can't wait to see you there. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/live. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, Director of Commodity Strategy at Restaurant Technologies, Inc., Ron Cardwell. Ron, my man, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I feel more excited about my title than I've ever felt before. The way you introduced me as energy, and it's a welcome energy.
I'm excited for today's conversation, man. And it's not every day I get to talk to a Director of Commodity Strategy.
Look, I'm excited. It's not every day everybody wants to kind of hear what our business is, and believe me, I'm not the most popular guy at a cocktail party. So it's so nice to talk to people in the industry who get it.
We're gonna nerd out,
I love it.
I had to do a little research to even find out what the heck a Director of Commodity Strategy is. I had a great conversation with ChatGPT this morning, and it's a really valuable role. And we're gonna unpackage what that is and what you do, and some of the trends that are happening across the nation relative to oil and moving towards tallow and the things that RTI is doing behind the scenes to make sure their customers are getting a maximum ROI on their investment, which is where you come in.
Right.
And I can't wait to get into that. But before we dive in, let's get that. Actually, I want to let the listeners know, this is my second interview with RTI. The first one was episode 1051 with Ryan Bolds. In that episode, we kind of introduced Restaurant Technologies Inc. deep into like what is RTI and the services you provide. If you're interested in learning more, I would say go back to that episode 1051. Today we're going to pick up where we left off. But before we pick up where we left off, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Look, one that I live by, and I think I tell my kids all the time, and it seems like an abstract thing. If you're familiar with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I love the rules in there. And primarily, number one rule is don't panic. Like whatever's thrown at you, there's no reason to panic. You'll never solve anything by panicking. Look through and try to find a logical solution or deal with it. So that's kind of my first that I really live by.
Such an easy time to panic right now.
It's so easy.
There's so much going on in the world, and
my gosh.
we're just being thrown all this information, and we know when like anything in the world happens at any given point, we have this information. So there's never a downtime. There's just always like this fear from all angles.
And, Eric, we talked a little bit earlier, casually about there being such a wealth of information out there right now. We're in a great time to find out all the information you can, but you get so much thrown at you. You get this sense that you're not doing something right. What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? Where are the holes? And it's great to have that access to information, but it's easy to over-listen and feel like you're not doing it right. So just don't panic.
Yeah.
You'll get it and you walk through it, and it's no obstacle is too big.
Exactly. Not only do we have access to all this information, but the way we are consuming it too, with like these little like clips of like bursts of fear, and it's a weird time, but
it is. But I love it. I mean, I love it because then
it's a choice.
Yeah, it is. It's
a choice.
It
and
totally
we can choose to feed into that, or we can choose to recognize that at the end of the day, the world's not crumbling around us. It's just an illusion.
You got it.
And just keep showing up. I like to say. Great
You
way
got
to
it.
get this
You
thing
got
started. So before we dive in, real quick, what is a Director of Commodity Strategy, and how did you find yourself in this role? Is this something you were doing before RTI, or is this your first time in the role?
Fair question. So the title itself, I don't know. It's probably a difficult thing to describe what I'm doing, and we kind of crafted something to say. Essentially, what my job is to look at oils. Vegetable oils, food oils, right? And they are a commodity. And within the restaurant industry or the food production industry, oil, vegetable oils, it's commodity. And there's a strategy behind how you handle them on the purchasing side and the disposition side. So what my job title really conveys is that I look at the strategy of how vegetable oil affects a business.
What is the definition of a commodity?
Yeah. So the baseline definition is something that you can't produce, like you can't manufacture it. It's just something that exists either because it's grown or mined from the ground, or it's something that is just in limited supply, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But the other thing about it is one is just like the other.
I'm surprised seed oils are considered a commodity because they actually have to be manufactured, don't they?
Well, they're grown, they're extracted out of natural things like soybeans and canola, beef tallow. Those are existing things that are either grown out of the ground and they are in limited supply, and so they have to be extracted from that. But the other part of commodity that makes it important to understand is one is just like the other. So if you think of soybean oil, a soybean oil from this manufacturer is exactly the same as another. So it doesn't matter which one you use; they're the same.
Maybe the only thing that will change that is the source of the soybean. Is it organic or whatever variable? Different
little things like that.
The terroir of the soybean.
It's little things like that make differences in commodity markets. But when somebody is looking at sourcing an input for food production or for manufacturing of any kind, just say steel. Okay. Steel is steel. It just has a grade it meets, but doesn't matter where you get it as long as everything meets that grade. One's not different than the other. Now, what you do with it, that's where the value comes in. Right? And so when you talk about food commodities, when you're out there sourcing menu ingredients, right? You want lettuce. Just use something as simple as lettuce. If you're just looking for Boston lettuce, you just want to make sure, is it fresh, and is it local enough that I can get a hold of it when I need it. Other than that, you don't really care much where it's from, right? What you turn that lettuce into makes that commodity turn into something of value. Your energy, your good, yes, exactly. And so you turn that commodity into something. So commodities are the ingredient baseline that everybody needs or wants, but you don't differentiate anything on them until you turn them into something.
Yeah, got it. So what were you doing before RTI that set you up to be a commodity strategist?
So my career started out at a very large agricultural processing company. Basically took farm goods, farm inputs, or I should say farm outputs, and processed them into foods. Commodities, you got it. So I worked for a company that processed corn and soybeans and wheat and flour and canola. And they turned all those into food ingredient products, right? So I did that for 23 years. And I focused squarely in the food oil business. So
did you choose that, or did it choose you?
No, it chose me. I grew up in the suburbs of Dallas. I didn't go anywhere near a farm. I couldn't have identified a farm product. But I went to school in central Illinois, so the middle of farm country.
I was going to guess you're in Aggie territory.
No, man. I left and went to the Midwest because it was 800 miles from home, and that's what every kid wants, right?
Most kids want to go south for college.
I definitely bucked that trend. But I graduated with a business degree, and I didn't really know where to go. It was a local company that hired me, and it was curiosity, I guess is the best way to put it. And I just found myself in this business where I'm like, what is this? I know, I have kind of a proclivity for food, and I see the products that these farmers are growing and they're turning into food ingredients. And so it led me down the road of curiosity, and that got me to the world of vegetable oils. And I spent 22 years just doing things with vegetable oils, and for no reason other than I just found it fascinating.
What was so fascinating?
It was going into the grocery store and looking at a grocery aisle, and it's in so many things, right? Your potato chips or any of the snack foods that you have, your bakeries, every bakery does it. You're frying things in oil. You have oil ingredients in just about every food that you're going into. Every time I go to a restaurant, the oil is present. And what that oil did to food just made it important. And it was just the hidden things. And it kind of not unlike what Restaurant Technologies is we operate in the background, but we make things happen. Well, oil makes things happen in food, and it just fascinated me, and I don't know why. And
oil just generally, not even just like cooking oil, but like oil, like period, is fascinating. Yeah. Like you think about like the oil that we extract from the earth, like for like literally it goes into everything.
It's
like when you really look at like the different layers of
Yep.
just like crude oil. Is it crude oil? Is that the technical term?
Petroleum. Crude petroleum. Yep,
Right.
that's right.
It's just like, you know, from like jet fuel to car fuel to propane to, you know, diesel for trucks, diesels, you know, for ships. Then there's like the really thick stuff is the ships. Like it looks like molasses,
called
right?
bunker oil, right?
Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
And then from there, it's like everything that's left over either goes into or asphalt to like plastic goods.
Yep.
Like it's like there is barely any waste when you look at oil. It's fat. I never knew that until like recently. I was like, holy cow! Like and like. What's the negative byproduct, like carbon, like CO2, and like it's a little like what else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it, is the leftovers. And I love that you drew that parallel, because it is a parallel to food oils,
Right.
And when in the food processing industry, when you pull the oil out of a soybean, it's ugly, it's gross, it's crude, much like crude petroleum, it's crude vegetable oil.
Well, I mean, that oil, is it any different than the oil that would become the oil that goes in our car if it just was able to get into the earth and pull into?
It's
really bio, it's organic, it's bio.
You got it. Like, essentially, it performs the same thing, and you have to clean it up to make it edible. But everything you take out of it, like the impurities, if you will, to make it edible, all those become things. They become lecithin, which is an ingredient in a food products. They spin it out for vitamin E, which go into vitamins. There's all these byproducts that come out of it, that to where you have almost no waste. It's very similar in how crude petroleum works and makes all these products out of the process. Vegetable oil does the same thing, and that very thing is exactly what fascinated me by the market, is to look and say, oh, you think it's just this bottle of, you know, Crisco that's or cooking oil that's in your grocery store. When you look into the process of it and what it creates across the spectrum in the food industry and petrochemicals, you know, soy processes or soy byproducts are used in a lot of things like candles and used in coatings for pharmaceuticals and things along those lines.
Truly an abundant resource.
It really is. It really is. So although I think encapsulating all of that is when I got exposed to it as a guy who really had no knowledge about it and no proclivities to how it should be. It just kind of just fascinated me, and I just wanted to know more and more.
So before getting to RTI, like what exactly was your life like with this relationship with oil?
Yeah, so it started out very basic. I worked with farmers in Iowa, and I bought their soybeans, right, and brought it into our plant where, you know, you process it and you pull that oil out. And then the next stage of my career, I went into the food oil side of it, where they cleaned that oil up, and I started working with big food manufacturers. Think of your snack chip manufacturers, your bread manufacturers, your big, you know, bakery type places, right? I started working with them on supplying them the oil they needed for their production. And it became a balance between customer service and getting them what they need, and also a trading. So the baseline of here's the value of it, and having to watch things like global prices for oils and making sure, you know, they're paying the right price and we're competitive, as well as getting them the exact specifications they needed. And so it led me down that road with the food side to say, what each one of these oils, I thought they were all the same,
right? So
but they're different.
Yeah, you're basically working with these producers, manufacturers of goods, and you're basically making sure that you're engineering the exact type of oil they need for their recipes. You're making sure it's consistent, and you're paying attention to the greater macroeconomic situations so that you're maximizing the value of the product.
Exactly. And along the way is when I started learning about the functionality of things like oils. And, you know, when you're making things like a croissant, or you're making something like any kind of layered baked good, it's a completely different type of fat or oil that you need there versus when you're putting it in a deep fryer. And so I learned that, oh, these actually have function beyond just
properties
there. And then you go into layers like, well, wait, one tastes different than another, right? And how that tastes with it's just the oil versus included in a food.
What happens when you heat it up and fry it at high temperature?
Yeah. Right. So all of those things, I think every year I could, I was in there, every year I could look at something else and say, wow, this is an amazing, to me. And that's where I can nerd out. It's amazing to me. And then we crossed into the early 2000s into the trans fat change and shift in the marketplace, right? Getting rid of trans fats. So I thought,
So what is a trans fat?
yeah, it's a great point. A trans fat is really just a way of adjusting the molecules in a fat or oil to make it function like something else. And the most simple explanation is saturated fats were used throughout the food industry for hundreds of years.
What
right?
are saturated fats?
Well, it's a great inroads. Things like beef tallow.
Beef tallow,
right?
lard.
You got it. Think about when whatever that oil or grease
Butter.
you see that at room temperature is kind of solid.
Yeah.
The molecular structure of that is a saturated fat.
Got
and
it.
that's bad for your heart and all those things we've heard
Got it.
forever. So the industry created these things called trans fats, which were not saturated, but through some manufacturing, you could change the structure of those molecules to make it appear solid and make it function like it's solid. So it's that functionality without having the nutritional impact of being a saturated fat, or so it was thought. Good science comes around, and we realize, those trans fats are actually way worse for you, right? And so you had an entire industry built on those trans fats that now had to change out of it.
Yeah, I think we're going to get more into that as because part of what I want to talk about today, is how RTI is evolving to consumer demand. And I think that's a big part of what we want to get out of today's conversation. Totally. And I think what we're talking about now is kind of leading to that, right?
It sure is.
So how did you find yourself at RTI?
Okay. I left the company I was at, normal downsizing type thing, and kind of stepped away from the business. When I look back, I call it a sabbatical.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to do something a little different. And, I spent 23 years in this fats and oils business. Let's try something a little bit different, right? So much for that. This opportunity came up with Restaurant Technologies, and I was familiar with the company.
I was going to say you must have been.
Absolutely.
It's a brilliant business model.
It's so brilliant. And I had enormous respect for the company when I wasn't with the company. And so this position came open, and I have to tell you, Eric, it looked like to me they wrote the job based on my resume.
That's what I'm thinking as you're sharing your story.
It really felt that way. And so I was so excited to talk to them. And so they put me through the paces, which they should have. And I was just lucky enough that they thought there was some value for me coming in. So that was back in 2022. So I spent the last 3.5 years with Restaurant Technology.
So now that we know what you were doing, how does that world of what you were doing look within the four walls or the confines of RTI and what you're doing for them?
This is the part that I love, is that I get to now work with our sales staff and work with our customers and trying to solve these problems or issues that they may be following and get them to points where they can have what they need in a better, more efficient way, perhaps in a way that saves money for sure, and help walk through any of those changes. Also with the added benefit of knowing you're doing it in a very sustainable way, because the sustainability side is important to us as a company and me personally.
Yeah.
To know you're going to solve all your needs in a restaurant, and you're going to do it and us as a company, as RTI, we're going to help you do that, and we're going to make sure any of your output waste is going to be sustainably used.
If people didn't heed my advice and go back to episode 1051 to fully comprehend what RTI is, I don't think you necessarily have to, but if people aren't familiar with RTI, get into like that life cycle of art. Like, so I think it would start with, sourcing oil or lard from I guess commodity producers, farms or whatever, right? Or I guess where does it start for you?
So
not the farm.
We don't manufacture the oil, right? So we get the oils that we use
from a company that you formerly worked with. Like
that would be one of them, right? That would be a supplier. So the large agribusiness companies who make huge amounts of the cooking oil, the same stuff, the same oil that would go into a jug.
They would work with RTI and you would work with the manufacturer to create specifics for, like, say, one of your customers. Am I allowed to say this? Like McDonald's? Is that public knowledge?
Yeah. It's absolutely public knowledge. Yeah,
so you would say, okay, what are the specs of frying oil that McDonald's wants? And then you say, okay, these are our specs. And then you would go to the manufacturer and you would say, we need to develop this oil. These are the specs. Manufacture this. We are going to then distribute it throughout the network of McDonald's like franchise locations?
That is certainly a way that it can be done. A lot of times what it is a company that large, they're working with those manufacturers.
Well,
right?
I was going to say, that's one thing I learned recently is that's how you get the bulk savings, right?
You got it. They work with those manufacturers, and then we go to those manufacturers and say, this is the specification this customer is asking for. Can you supply it to us? So we just kind of get, I don't want to say we're the middleman, but we are a little
distribution.
But there are definitely companies much smaller than say McDonald's who don't really have the buying power that McDonald's does. And for sure, we'll go to those companies and say, okay, these are oils that we have. Will they work for what you need? Or are there specific needs and then we work with them to find, okay, let's find the one that you do need. And then, yes, we'll go to those manufacturers and say, we need this oil. Can you supply it for us? And so we'll help the people in the middle, for sure, who don't have the buying power of, say, McDonald's, and they don't have the resources necessarily to spend on doing all the research and what oils are here or there. So we'll work with them, help them develop what they need, and then we can go into the manufacturers and source it.
You guys don't touch with the group purchasing, like any of that kind of, like, you're not negotiating on behalf of your clients.
Oh no, for sure. Okay. We can. We certainly can. Okay. If you're a restaurant operator and you have, I don't know, 15 or 20 locations, let's just say, you feel like you have some buying power, but in the grand scheme of things, you might not.
Right.
It's just a small amount. But we have 45,000 customers.
Yeah, so you can use that leverage.
So we can use that leverage and do the purchasing on your behalf. Absolutely. Now, at the same time, if you feel like you have a relationship with the supplier of oil, we're not going to get in between that either. We'll say, great. You develop with them and you can develop your pricing. We'll handle the delivery to you. So,
got it.
So circling back to the, what do? We essentially take that oil, whether it's something we've sourced from the supplier or you have as a company, we deliver it to you in bulk format. Instead of those jugs in a box, jibs, as we call them, we're going to put a tank into your restaurant, a small tank.
How many gallons?
Approximately, well, about 1,400 pounds is roughly the size of it. So you're talking, 600 gallons or something like that. So it
doesn't sound like a small tank.
Well, yeah. But it's about the size of a water heater at your house. That's generally what it is. And we have all kinds of varieties depending on the footprint. But
so you're filling this water heater size tank with oil that then you use to fill your fryers.
Yeah, we run a line from that tank. We run it to your fryer.
Yeah.
So
are there two tanks or one tank?
There's actually two tanks because it's equally important for supplying the oil is getting rid of that old oil, right? And so when we put those tanks in, we put two. We put one that has all that fresh oil to feed to your fryer, and we put another one to take the old oil from your fryer and put it into the tank, so you don't have to handle it. It really eliminates the risk involved, and we know I won't go down it, but the biggest safety risk. Yes, the biggest safety risk in the kitchen is emptying hot oil out of a fryer and trying to carry it out back to dispose of it. We eliminate that.
It's a nasty job. If you worked in a kitchen that has a fryer, that when it's time to clean the fryer, it's like everyone's like, ugh.
Nobody wants to do it.
And we've all been there where like the filter that we're using to filter, the oil like gets bumped and we're not paying attention. And you have like this sheet of oil across the ground, and then you have to spend time cleaning that, and it's a nasty job, and it can be dangerous. It's hot.
It's the most dangerous,
and you have high school kids trying to do this
most of the time.
Yeah, so it's you're solving a huge problem in the restaurant industry.
Yes.
You're also then pulling that oil, you're taking it, and then that's not the end of what you guys do.
Not at all.
After it leaves the restaurant, it's not like you're just dumping it into a landfill.
Never.
Now you have your own commodity that you're then taking and selling to who?
That's the commodity director part of what I do, right? Is that then becomes this used cooking oil. You hear it referred to colloquially as UCO. Used cooking oil that's collected, we send it to fuel manufacturers for them to make renewable diesel out of. So it's diesel fuel that goes into any vehicle that runs diesel. So 100% of the used cooking oil that we collect from restaurants goes directly to a fuel producer, either biodiesel or renewable diesel.
So back to this idea of like crude oil that we pull, like we think of like the oil rigs in like Texas and like the South, right? Yeah. Like the chemical like compound or the chemical build of that byproduct is the same exact stuff that gets pulled out of the oil that we think of when we think of like the oil that comes out of the earth. But when you kind of extract all the bits, it's the same, I guess I want to say like chemical, I don't know the word to use, but the same making of the same oil that goes inside of diesel engines. Like but it's just coming from a different source.
Yeah, it's chemically it's slightly identical. Different, but it can perform the same way. Okay. So while you have, and I hate going through chemistry, but it is chemistry.
My restaurant owner listeners like, dude, I know. Like, we don't care.
It's these fatty acid chains, but essentially you can run it through a process. It's not difficult, and turn that into the same diesel fuel that crude petroleum would turn into. And when I say the same, I mean it's the same. So it doesn't look exactly the same, but once it goes through the process, it comes out looking the same.
Got it.
Right.
So I have a note here to talk about what oil to use with what and how it relative. Like, I mean, thinking of our end listener, restaurant owners and operators, what should they know relative to RTI and maybe they're doing chicken fingers, or maybe they're I don't know, what's another thing that gets fried all the time? Maybe it's fried fish, right? Yeah. Maybe it's donuts. Yep. Right? Like totally different. So like, what oil to use with what? So when you get a new client, are you also educating them on like, well, what is the product that you're creating and what is the optimal oil for that? Like,
I think that's a great way to start at it. I think our starting point always is your menu and what you're trying to get out of it. So we don't want to change that. We want to get out of the menu what you need. So I think that's the best point for us to start with a restaurant, because we're not going to pretend that we know your kitchen or your customers or anything. But what matters when it comes to an oil is you want to know the functionality you're going to need out of it. You want to know the flavor profile you're going to get out of it, and you want to know the price impact. I mean, those are the three main things that we help look at. Is okay, if you're frying a donut versus frying a chicken finger, it's totally different functionality of the oil, right? So that we have to dial in on what food are you getting in there, and then the second part of that is what's the flavor you're trying to get, because every oil will have a different finish flavor, and so we don't want to tell you the right or wrong. We want to get the one that you want, right? And a lot of restaurants already know. We've used this type of oil for years. This is what we like. This is what our customers like. This is the thing. Great, because if we have that type, then maybe we can figure out the best way to source it and get you the best price, and we can show you all sorts of cost savings with our system, the system we use. That's an easy thing.
So you're not necessarily consulting on the type of oil to use. You're basically saying, what kind of oil do you want and how do we procure that for you?
And sometimes, exactly. And sometimes they don't know. And when they don't know, we can help guide them.
Procure it at scale, at volume.
We sure can. Yep, that's right. That's right. And I think the overriding factor is that we are oil agnostic. Okay. We don't make an oil that we're pushing on you. We really want to get you the one you want. We want to help dial in with what the one you want is. If you don't know the one you want, this is just what we've always used. Hey, we can ask some questions and figure things out. Even maybe trial some stuff and find.
I've seen the facility, and it's really cool. Like you have this truck that drives around and has a big tank on it, but it's not just one oil that's in that tank. Like I saw the back of this truck, and there was like all different types of valves coming out of it. So like you carry, maybe you carry McDonald's oil, you carry KFC's oil, and each one of these customers has a different product that they have specifications for. How many different specifications are you carrying at any one time? And
each truck in theory can carry four different specs. We have some trucks that maybe can carry up to 6, but
I'm assuming McDonald's is on every one of those trucks. Maybe KFC too.
It's a safe assumption. It's a safe assumption.
And then like what percentage of the oil is going to say your like mom and pop 5-unit operator?
Oh, I mean, it's more than half of our business is still that. Yeah. I mean, McDonald's, as we know, McDonald's is a customer. And they're a huge part of our business, but by no means are they the majority of our business, right? We have a lot of mom and pops, a lot of mid-majors, a lot of small regional players.
Fun fact, independent restaurant owners make up about 60 to 65% of the total market of all restaurants. Which I like to point out, because I think when we think there's no hope against, there's no control, or there's no not trying to talk crap about corporations, but I am worried about the independent, where it's getting harder and harder for the independent to make it. The world we live in is continually better optimized for large corporations. But we have to remember that 65% of restaurants are still owned by independents. So we have to communicate. We have to talk.
Yeah.
We have to share information if we want to have a chance to keep the scale balanced, right? Because if we don't band together, then we are the majority together. We have to remember that. Anyway, I digress.
No, you didn't digress. In fact, you hit on something that we think is incredibly important. We concentrate on the small restaurant just as much as we concentrate on the large restaurants, right? And what we can bring to that small restaurant is all the same things. We can bring that buying power that maybe they don't have, kind of like, the buying co-ops sometimes that form in restaurants. We can bring that power to them. We can bring knowledge and expertise in helping make those decisions, at least around oil. We can help bring that in when they don't have a research group or somebody to lean on. We can add that to there. And we can do things like eliminate your safety risk, which we should.
Lower your insurance.
Lower your costs.
Yeah.
Your insurance costs.
Well, your purchasing costs and your insurance. And
those,
also, you guys, we didn't mention you do hood cleaning too, which also lowers your insurance.
That's something we don't do that anymore.
Oh, you don't?
Just recently closed that segment of our business down. We sure did.
I thought that was a really cool feature.
It's a great feature. We couldn't service it the way it needed to be serviced.
There's a lesson here.
Yeah.
Do one thing really well.
Well, yeah.
And I was curious. Not trying to beat up RTI or anything like that, but when I learned about those features, I was wondering if it's like, at what point is diversification good, or should you just stay in your lane?
Yeah.
So you guys decided you should stay in your lane.
I think so. I think, and I can't speak on the business because I didn't get that part of it. But what I know is we were trying to solve some problems for the restaurant, which were our real problems. We're hood cleaning, things like that. And we were trying to help solve that problem. And I thought we had a really good system that was developed and done doing it. I really do.
Yeah.
It just didn't catch, and the time that we had to concentrate on that, to your point, took away from our time and energy.
Did you guys sell that portion of the business to another company?
Yeah, we did. And
so there's still that solution out there.
It's still operating. That's cool. I think it's going to operate brilliantly. But I can't. I mean, I don't know enough about how it spun off there. But in any case, the small restaurants we think are just as valuable because we want to service them the exact same way. And I think the cost savings they amplify more for the independent, right? You can't afford to have employees injured. You might not have to hire as many people if you can eliminate things like worrying about ordering oil and it showing up and emptying and things like that. You can dedicate that high school worker to doing something else in the restaurant that will add value besides that. So I don't want to lose those independent restaurants. I want all of them to succeed because on a personal note, it makes my dining experience better. I sure love going to those places for dinner. So
for sure. So at what point in this journey, this seed oil tallow journey, do you kind of come in and do you ever work directly with the restaurants?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's that relationship for you and the restaurant?
So between myself and the restaurant, it always starts with our representative for the restaurant. And when I say ours, I mean RTI's representative, who's sales rep who's handling that restaurant. They're the point of contact for everything with the restaurant, and they'll reach out to me. Recently, with the tallow versus seed oil discussion that's come in, it sparked a lot of conversations. There was a point, the early part of 2025, where I at least once a week I was having a conversation with somebody about that tallow versus seed oil thing, right? But it came to be because you have restaurants are concerned about getting their customers what they want, and B, concerned about providing something nobody else is doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the first thing that happens. But this is where I'm so happy with the work of our sales force and our entire team is we didn't shy away. We didn't handle any type of tallow product a couple of years ago.
When was RTI established as a company? Do you know the year they were formed? In the 90s?
Late 90s.
So after the trans fat movement had kind of cemented itself and
started rolling, and then the early 2000s was really when it got its footing and started.
Well, we kind of alluded to it, and I got some notes here, and I just want to emphasize RTI is oil, trans fat, saturated fat, agnostic. They will get you what you want. So you're not here to champion whether you should use trans oils.
Well, I'll say you should use trans oils for sure.
Right. Sorry.
those aren't available, but saturated
versus
unsaturated.
unsaturated. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I am not an oil expert.
That's okay.
Clearly.
That's totally okay.
So basically you're here to get the customer, the restaurant, whatever they decide. You know, you're not advocating for one or the other.
You got it.
But there are, I think it was around the 90s where, that's when McDonald's went from using tallow to seed oils. And it was probably largely due to the economic efficiencies, the costs, the distribution of.
Yeah, there was kind of twofold. And so just let's turn on our Wayback Machine and kind of look, is really when you get into the 80s is when McDonald's based all their fried off of beef tallow. That was very common in the restaurant industry, as beef tallow was kind of the baseline, right? It was really the movement to get away from saturated fats, which drove McDonald's to using vegetable oil.
And again, saturated fats are things like that we traditionally
lard,
cooked in tallow,
butter, all those things.
The natural.
You got it. All those naturally occurring things. So it was based on scientific evidence showing that saturated fats are bad for your heart. They deteriorate cardiovascular health. So the movement was started with saturated fats, and that's what made McDonald's move to a vegetable oil-based frying oil. Now, the beauty of tallow, and I'll save this till the end of the world, is it tastes fabulous.
Yeah. I recently got tallow for Christmas. Thank you.
It's
my
so
lovely
good.
Girlfriend, Courtney. And I made homemade French fries, and I'm like, I'm never going back.
No,
this is like it tastes so much better.
It absolutely does.
And I think a lot of the resistance that people, and I try to find some research to see if there's anything online. At least ChatGPT was telling me that there's a lot of this, like there isn't a ton of evidence to support the claims relative to like whether or not there's what are the things I wrote down here? The big reasons why people move away from seed oils to tallow is because of inflammation, ultra processed nature of seed oils. Some people just don't like that. The seed oils are unstable when heated and oxidize easily and forming harmful compounds. Aldehydes. I'm not good at saying
aldehydes.
Oh, thank you very much. Aldehydes and lipid peroxide. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the claims, and we're not here to talk about those claims necessarily, but you do have to be skeptical of this industrial world we live in, and like America is about profit. If there's a more profitable model with trans fats, right?
That's what drove towards the trans fat side.
So is it about profit, and is it not necessarily so much about is it healthier? Was that just a story that they wrote to make it?
That's right.
More appealing and easier to sell to America.
I appreciate a healthy bit of skepticism. I really do. I think there's a good reason to be skeptical when something's being pushed towards you, right?
We're just talking about the reason why right now. Again, RTI is agnostic. They will get you whatever you want, but there is a clear trend happening.
There is.
Where people are moving away from seed oils towards trans fats. Not trans fats. Saturated fats. Thank you. Tallow. Tallow makes me want to say trans fat. Tallow.
Tallow.
So I think that's just kind of worth bringing to the conversation. It's a lot of health reasons, and then a lot of it has to do with just people's values of moving away from ultra processed foods to more natural source foods. It's also keto friendly, which is a huge thing right now. These are some of the reasons why there's this move is happening. And one of the things I wanted to come out of today's conversation is that like that really kind of I was thinking is throwing a wrench in RTI's business model, but that's not true.
Not true. No, not true. We really before the seed oil versus tallow, discussion happened, we were already exploring carrying tallow for a couple of customers who've always used tallow, and we couldn't get in there. We couldn't do it. But tallow's very nature is, it's solid. it's a big brick of fat, and anybody who's handled it knows you got to peel a wax paper off and dump it into there, and when you take it out, once it cools down, it's going to solidify again. So
Yeah.
it didn't really fit the nature of how our system
Pumping
happened.
it through hoses
pumping it through tanks and hoses and disposing of it. It didn't really work, but we worked with the manufacturer of tallow, and we procured a product that's liquid at room temperature. It's still tallow. The science behind it is it's fractionated. Essentially, you kind of spin out the solid parts versus the liquid parts, and so it's still tallow. It's just the liquefied version of that tallow. So we were working on that beforehand. So we were in position to say, hey, it's there. So it didn't fit us beforehand, but we weren't against it. It was just a matter of handling
the demand.
You got it.
Right.
And then it was by fate the discussion all of a sudden came to the forefront, and we were carrying tallow.
Yeah.
And it gets to where you said, but we weren't championing anything. We weren't saying, no, don't do this or don't do that. Just, hey, here's the real limitations and the facts about tallow versus seed oil. And the truth is, when when society is running towards a trend, we all know everybody's chasing the trend, and people lose sight of why.
Yeah, I think it's also important to point out that saturated fats aren't necessarily healthy for you.
No, I think it's good.
It's less processed.
It's a very good point.
It might be more, I don't know, less hard for, or what's what I'm trying to say, like easier on your knees and inflammation, like
Sure.
that kind
Possibly.
of stuff. But like at the end of the day, you shouldn't be eating everything in saturated fats.
That's right.
It's just maybe not as processed, and there might not be as chemical byproducts involved.
And I think that's where we can come in is just to lay out again, because we're agnostic. We have tallow, so it's something we can supply, but we want to go in and make sure, hey, what are you chasing? Again, what's the functionality you're after? What is the flavor you're after? Because those things matter in your restaurant, and we want to be able to say, all right, do you want to change the flavor of your food? This is a theoretical somebody coming to me and saying, hey, we're thinking about maybe getting away from canola oil or soybean oil and using tallow. Can you do that? First of all, yes, we can.
How much more expensive is it? Sorry.
No, that's that again. The second question is it's significantly more expensive,
right?
Or it can be, because the commodity, the very nature is it changes all the time. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to be paying more for it for sure. Sometimes in the order of 2 to 3 times as expensive. It's very expensive, because it's in limited supply. So we'll address that to the customer and ask. We'll say, well, number one, what's your price sensitivity? I guess it's going to be more expensive. But secondarily, if you're going from using, say, a soybean oil or canola oil and you go to a tallow, your entire flavor profile of your menu will change. Could change for better.
Yeah,
it could. But sometimes most people don't want to change the flavor of their menu. They developed it because of how it is.
Right.
But it will have a change. So we try to lay that out and say, if you're ready for all these and you have a higher price sensitivity, you're fine. The flavor's okay, and you like the added flavor, and your customers are asking for it. Great.
Yeah.
But you need to consider all those things.
It is interesting that I think part of the challenge with the world we live in, the current ecosystem of restaurants, is that like they're just so unsustainable in terms of like everybody wants to eat fajitas, but the cow isn't all fajita, you know?
You got it.
And it's just like we as consumers are just, I really do think the consumers are fucking shit up so bad. It's just like, God, like, can we wake up? Like, we all just want, like food trends are so bad for, I think, the restaurant industry and just for society generally, because the world doesn't work like that.
That's right.
I think the way that the world, like if you look at like how food is naturally produced in nature, the percentages of like, say, beef tallow, the food that we should be eating should be the percentage of the animal that is tallow. You know, like we shouldn't be frying all the food we eat shouldn't be fried.
Yep.
Like we should probably look at like if we like 10,000 years ago, like how would we have been, like what would our diet, what would the balance of our diet look like? We should probably try to mimic that in some way.
I think that's a very great way to look at it.
To your point, like tallow is a limited resource.
It is.
We can't cook everything in tallow because there literally isn't enough tallow on the earth to cook all the food that's on earth.
Spot on, man.
So like,
Spot on.
let's kind of look at that and maybe balance our like food system off of what's like supply and demand. But I think as costs go up, that kind of is a natural governor into.
It is. And that's where we find ourselves today, is that for whatever reason, there was a ton of people asking the tallow versus seed oil question, and we'd walk through. Like I said, I've had hundreds of conversations. Walk through. All right, let's explore what you really want, what you're after, and price. And it's definitely one of those. Supply is another one. Do you really want to face a point where you could just not have any oil to run? So after we walk through all of that, those decisions start being made kind of on their own. Is like, there's not enough out there. It's not there, and really, it's not really achieving what I want, or I don't really need that. But it's about guiding through that decision-making process. And one of the things I tell you, because people say, well, can't you just get more tallow? Can't you just get more tallow? And I'll remind them, I'll say, well,
cows, but then there's a whole argument. Like
the only reason the tallow industry exists is because that fat is just kind of scraps left over from the beef processing. Nobody's feeding a cow just for the tallow, right? Just for the fat it's producing. So you're really... It's a byproduct. You're going to have a limited supply, period.
But is all of the tallow that is grown in America utilized?
Yeah, it's utilized. It's utilized. There's not a drop that's wasted. Now, how it's utilized is a different story. We talked earlier about how oils are kind of like petroleum, and well, guess what? Beef tallow goes into a lot of industrial uses. It goes into a lot of cosmetic usage. It goes into a lot of machinery and manufacturing usages. It turns into fuel. It turns.
Isn't it like it's like food safe? Like I don't know. Like there's oils that you can use in like food equipment, right?
Yeah,
where it's like food safe.
You should. Yeah, exactly. So there's lots of other avenues besides just wanting us.
I know people put it on their hands.
You just for like the cosmetic industry. Cosmetic industry uses it. There's a lot of uses, and in fact, when you look at the USDA grading system for tallow, food grade is at the very top, and it's just a very small percentage of the tallow that's actually graded as food. You have below that what's called technical tallow, which is it's all cleaned up and ready for some sort of manufacturing or possibly even pharmaceutical use. But it's being used, right?
Yeah.
And so to get more of it into that upper echelon of making sure it's safe for human consumption and cleaned up and all that stuff, it's a lot. There's a lot that has to change. And even if you do that, you'll increase the supply, but by no means is it going to be something that's just plentiful.
Right.
So it has its own natural limitations. And it's funny how the market figures this stuff out, right? Because if you look at charts showing what food oils are used in restaurants it's no coincidence that most of the oils used are the ones that are most widely available. So soybean oil and canola oil are there, and some corn oil, and then you go into the beef tallows, and those kind of, you look at the production of those oils, and that's the same list of volumes that are produced, right? It kind of finds its way in there on its own. And it's just a matter of industry finding what it needs to operate efficiently, profitably, and in a way that gets them the food that they want, whether nutritionally or flavor profile or any of that. It has to matter too.
So with the tallow delivery, you figured out a solution that keeps it in liquid form. Yeah. Is there any heating that's involved with it?
Yeah, we do. We slight changes to some of our equipment, which is running kind of heat tracing line through the lines. We put an insulation on the tank. Our trucks that operate have to have a little bit more insulation and heating. We're not talking about putting it up to 100 degrees or anything like that. Just to keep it somewhere around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, just to make sure it flows. There is
at room temperature, it's liquid, but when you're driving around the Northeast this time of year,
you got it.
Or the North in general, when it's like negative 5 degrees out, I'm sure it's not liquid.
So we do some heat tracing and things like that in the equipment to make sure it can do this. It's not a drop-in replacement, if you will, but it's one that we can work with. It's one that we can figure out a way to do.
Are you allowed to get into the how you guys engineer that, or is that like?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, again, it wasn't us engineering. It was the supplier of tallow who does it. A company in Chicago. They're very well known, the biggest supplier of beef tallow in the country. They just in their manufacturing. I think if you think of you know what a centrifuge is, right? You just spin it, the heavier stuff comes out, it goes to the bottom, and the lighter stuff to the top. In a very broad sense, that's kind of how it's done, right?
So there's your centrifuge in the truck?
No. It's done before it makes it to our depot, right? So the company that makes the tallow and cleans it up, they kind of just do that separation there, and then they send us the part that's liquid.
Got it.
And the solid parts they use for other.
Did you have to modify your trucks to be able?
A little bit of modification, but mostly it's heat tracing. Mostly,
When
it's
you
just
say heat tracing, what do you mean?
So you run these little coils along the line.
Hoses and stuff. So it's just basically all pulling off the alternator to electrical. And it's just,
and trucks, so they'll circulate the heat in the box to make sure that the inside of the tank stays warm. When you go to the store level, it's running kind of like heat tape that you
around the hoses so that the hose is warm.
You got it. So when it's anything that's sitting in any of the lines, they maintain a certain temperature, and putting an insulating blanket around a tank to make sure it maintains a
So when it's in the truck, is the tank itself being heated?
Yeah.
Are those just like
we have it's in transit heat in the truck, so much like you said, it runs out of the radiator and just kind of goes through the truck and comes back in.
So it's all electrical heated.
Yeah, it's all heated.
I'm thinking like my days as a commercial pilot, like a lot of the heat that we would get was from the exhaust.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like CO2 is running over these coils, and it's like the exhaust, and then like that heats the air up, and you have to be careful because if there's a crack.
Yeah, it's not CO2 in this one.
I was like, I want to go there.
It's more think of it like the antifreeze that's in your radiator.
Got it.
It's additional. You run longer lines, so that warm fluid just kind of goes through and circulates through the engine. It's the engine heat that generates that heat in the trucks.
Got it.
When it gets to the store level, then it's just electric heat.
Cool. I mean, what else do we need to discuss that we haven't discussed today? You're clearly passionate about this topic.
So the equal side of my passion comes with what we do with the oil when it leaves your restaurant. Yeah. And I think that's something that's become more and more important. And quite honestly, it's driving a lot of the supply and pricing issues that you're seeing with food oil on the front side. And I don't think it's as widely known as it should be, but it's probably no secret that renewable fuels are an important part of our fuel economy. And in particular, renewable and biodiesel are fuels that have grown in demand, and we have federal mandates that say how much we need to include, and all in the effort of reducing carbon output for our vehicles. Well, that's where vegetable oils come into place. And I mentioned earlier on, my career had been in the food side. The back half of my career has been on the fuel side as well too. So what we do is we take that used oil, the UCO, and we send it to these renewable fuel producers. They're mandated by the federal government, by the EPA, to create a certain amount of fuel from renewable sources every year. And so we put that into the fuel supply. And the reason it matters is we're taking waste product from a restaurant, putting it into fuel production, which essentially has a almost zero carbon intensity effect, right? It's minimal carbon intensity factor for making fuel that the trucks run on, that any diesel truck runs on the highway. So every restaurant that we service contributes to that renewable economy in a way that they should be proud of.
Yeah, and that's another variable. I know there's a lot of talk about being a zero carbon footprint restaurant. If you sign up with RTI, does that help you get one step closer?
It certainly would, because we can definitely show you where your waste oil goes to.
And you also don't have that nasty tank.
Oh gosh,
that is just gross.
I think we all know we've probably seen it, but we've definitely smelled it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how, in my years of working in restaurants, that's the one thing. It's always my job to take the oil out and to dump it. And it was always like,
that's right.
Yeah.
And so when we deliver all those oils and we find the right thing for you to reuse and help you run your restaurant effectively, when we're delivering that oil, at the same time, our trucks are pumping out that old stuff and taking it away for you, and you never have to touch it or smell it.
So what's funny is the person who is going to be the first person to hear this conversation after we recorded it, my editor, Jared, and I used to work together, and the two of us would always take the oil out. And there were so many times where the oil would either splash up and hit my wrist or splash up and hit his wrist, and we would drop that thing I'm just now starting to have these traumatic experiences coming back. How much I hated taking the oil out, and it was always the two of us. I seemed like we always were the two that had to take it out.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
It is something that's near and dear to my heart. I don't like to discount the idea that it is a fully sustainable process. We're taking all the oil, delivering all the oil you want. Whatever you don't need, we're going to make sure it goes to a renewable fuel production side, and the cherry on top of that is, we share that value with the restaurant.
Yeah.
So you'll get a credit on your bill for the used cooking oil we took away from you.
That's cool.
So not only are we alleviating you of having to handle it, and you don't see those nasty dumpsters out back and all that stuff, you're just going to get a line item on your invoice that says, hey, we're reducing your prices because based on the value of this. So
does the money that you get from selling the used oil go straight back to savings, or is there like a split there? Do you take some of those
there's a split. We have costs involved in that, obviously, and
Yeah.
so we have to do it according to market values, and of course we have our own profit margin that's on there, but we're clear with the restaurants and what that share is. But you're getting a share that's a better share than anybody else, who's collecting will give you. That's for sure. So but we share that, and so when you see the price of your cooking oil start rising, which happens, and I think right now we're probably in that cycle where cooking oil is going to start climbing again. It's being driven by the demand for renewable fuels because they want that virgin soybean oil or canola oil to produce diesel fuel out of. So it's raising your costs as a restaurant. But the good news is it's also raising the value of that used oil. And so you're getting some backside.
So this is where I'm going to get all conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
At what point do you think the government's getting involved, influencing the diets? I've heard in the past that America banks on unhealthy. Like we this country makes so much money on unhealthy behaviors, to the things we're discussing right now to there's profit in byproduct food oils that the government capitalizes on.
Sure.
And then also people just being sick. We don't have a healthcare system.
Yeah.
We have a sick care system, and we make a lot of money off of unhealthy people. I mean, am I getting way too I don't know, is this area we should back away from right now?
No, let me start this. Let me start my answer by saying that the following answer is Ron Cardwell's opinion, not that of Restaurant Technologies. But what I'll say to that is, feeding 350, 400 million people is difficult.
Right.
And there's only 3 components of nutrition.
When you industrialize it and centralize
it becomes easier, right?
Right. But is it necessarily better?
That's the balance. I think that's the point look, I think you and I could agree if we sat down and said, this is the ideal menu that you and I should eat every day. Some of us are very privileged to where we can afford to do that. And we can afford to spend the money on organic produce, on sustainably raised meat, on all those things that I think as in general agree are probably better for you. But as your ability to pay for those drops, you sacrifice a lot of things. And I think it's cost per calorie really comes into effect.
Yeah.
And that's what's driven us probably towards an unhealthy diet is we've as a country, we've had the cheapest food in the world forever. And it doesn't mean it's been nutritionally proper for us.
You're paying for it different ways.
You are.
And I think that's what we have to start to wake up to. I think that's what my mission statement is, to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. Really, my mission is to change the world. And I think there's no better positioned industry than the restaurant industry to do it. Because
I couldn't agree more.
We second largest industry behind the government, used to be third behind healthcare. We've just recently surpassed healthcare. And I think we are more to healthcare than healthcare is to healthcare.
Yeah.
We are healthcare. They're sick care.
Yeah.
What you put into your body, we're not just healthcare for your physical body. We're healthcare for your community. Mm-hmm. If you're choosing to source, your products, a certain way, this industry can have massive impact.
Yeah.
If we start sharing information and we start educating people on, that is a lot of what drives me going forward. It isn't just what are the 4 walls of the economics of how to make your restaurant successful, but what are the macroeconomic variables that we need to consider to have a better future for America,
right? And
to make it more possible for independent restaurant operators to have a chance.
Yeah,
because we're not going in that direction right now. We're going in the opposite direction.
You're right, and it's a sad realization when you have to realize you have to sacrifice something that health wise for something else,
right,
that can do it. But I think your audience and restaurant operators in particular see a frontline view to that, right?
Right.
And you have to balance your ability to survive as a business with your ability to provide what's better for the customer and what they want. And it's such a fine line to balance. If you designed your menu to say, I'm only going to serve things that really are good for you, that are the healthiest that you could get, is that going to be serving your customers and their demand? maybe or maybe not, some for sure. But sometimes you have to make those sacrifices to fit what people want, or to fit the profitability that you need to survive, because you have a family to support. You have people that are depending on you. So, and I think that's a very micro view of the food system in general, is finding the balance between what people want and what's really healthy, and also not eliminating someone's choice. I love eating deep fat fried French fries as much as you do. Oh my God, they're so good. I don't want anybody telling.
Twice fried. First you've cooked them, I think it's like 140 or 130. I can't remember the temperatures. And then you do the flash fry afterwards. It's like 170. Like,
but we know they're not good for you.
So good.
Every meal of the day, right? But I want to be able to choose that when I can.
Yeah.
And so all those things come together to make the right choices. And I think that again gets to where Restaurant Technologies comes in, is we don't want to take that choice away from you, the restaurant operator. You know your customers better than we do.
Yeah.
And we'll listen to you and get you what you need and help you make decisions when you're ready to make changes, or what you need to accomplish.
Yeah. There's one other question I had. I don't know if it came out. Your RTI is really good about, what do we do with the byproduct, the spent oil? What do you do with the spent tallow? Where does that go?
Same place. It goes in the same.
Okay.
Yeah. The great thing about used cooking oil is it's just that if you cooked it and it's oil, it's the same. Okay. So the tallow, and so everyone's clear, we handle blends of oil and soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower seed oil, peanut oil, tallow, and blends thereof.
It all goes to the same place.
All goes to the same place. So when I say we're agnostic on the oil you want, I really mean it. We really are. We just want to give you what you need.
Does one of those oils or tallows do better in producing bio or like diesel fuel?
No. What does better to produce diesel fuel is clean oil, where there's just not a lot of stuff in it, right?
Like food byproduct.
You got it.
So that it's filtered.
Exactly. But again, shameless plug. That's why we're better than anywhere else. Is our system, when it empties from the fryer, from that point to the time it goes back to our depot and gets loaded out and goes to the fuel producer, we filter that oil. It's as clean as it gets.
What happens with the stuff that gets filtered out?
It gets disposed of, but there's not much because the system's closed.
Yeah.
It's not that open dumpster in the back where people throw a shoe and a rat.
There might be a whole chicken finger in
you
there.
Got it. It's before it leaves the fryer.
Yeah.
It's catching. And when I say we're filtering, it's very small particle type stuff that we're getting out there.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it more valuable to the fuel producer, is the cleanliness of it.
Anything that has not come out of today's conversation that you want to get out?
Boy, not offhand. If I'm leaving with a broad topic, it's your business better than we do, but we will know how to handle the oil for you better than anybody else, and that's our goal. Our goal is to get you what you need. We want you to forget about it. It's going so well, you forget to order your oil. You forget to call, have them empty it out. You forget that there's anything about it because you've dialed in that part of the business, and RTI can we'll get it to your oil to you in the middle of the night. You don't have to worry about it. It's always there and always full. It's emptied, and your food tastes exactly what you want it to taste like. Nutritionally, you're satisfying. So we want to take that really off your table of worries, right? And get back to running your restaurant.
Yeah. I do want to say before we wrap up that, RTI or RT, I don't know, you guys are rebranding.
RTI.
RTI?
We've been RTI for many years, and we tried to dial in the RT, but really we're RTI.
So RTI. I do want to say that you guys are kind of like a Goldilocks partner for me. I want to believe in the companies that I partner with and promote. And these are one of the companies, when I find out that RTI is interested in working with me again, I'm like, heck yeah. Because I do believe in what you guys are doing. I think it's a great service. There's so many benefits to it.
Yeah.
And I think when we talked to Ryan Boyles, am I saying that?
Ryan Bolts.
Thank you very much. I think we proved that like you actually, at the end of the day, with all the savings and the efficiencies, it's like a no-brainer choice. I think.
Yeah. I'm always up for anybody showing me why it doesn't make sense, but I've never found it.
And it's just a great company that, to your point, like it's just connected to from the procurement of the good, to finding ways to add value to different companies, to the full circle of taking that and creating fuel out of it. Mm-hmm. Like it's just it seems like just, I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't want to promote a company like this. And that just makes me feel good. And I am not an actor. I can't fake it. And I want to be able to talk transparently about the better options that are out there. And when we talk about RTI, I just feel like I'm actually spreading good. So thank you for your support and for, seeing my mission and wanting to be a part of it. And before we say goodbye, who do you respect and admire in the industry? Is there a company you've worked with, people that are just doing it right, that have really just kind of blown you away that you think we should make an example of?
I just right off the bat, I can't think of.
I do think I blindsided you with this question.
This one's kind of new. I guess I'll say this in general, that the American farmer is somebody you can rely on. Okay, and when I started in my business and we talked about commodities and what are commodities, farm grown commodities are really the backbone of all of our diets, and farmers will respond to what people want. So if you want, my opinion is, talk to the people in your area who grow the food.
Yeah. And is there a farm out there that we need to profile and that is doing something different or special?
That's a great question. None that come to mind.
You can have a rain check.
Give me some thoughts on that. But I trust the farmers, and I really trust what they're doing. They react to what the industry wants, but it takes time. Right. It's not instant.
Let me throw this out there. If you're listening to this and there's a farm doing some really cool stuff out there, put that on my radar. I do want to get more farms on the show. I just recently had Dean and Peeler on the show. They're based out of San Antonio, just outside of San Antonio. I think there's a lot of cool things happening. Like as the world evolves and progresses and technology gets better, our ability to create food is getting better. And I think what they're doing with vertically integrating the whole process of growing beef, from sperm selection to insemination to creating, they vertically integrated they create their own feed that's super healthy, and their whole thing is just trying to create a consistent product that is done sustainably. They own the processing plant, they own the manufacturing plant that they then will create beef that is to your specs, to your cuts, with your marinades. Like
those are great stories. Those are the ones where you want to do business with.
Yeah, those people. And it's independent. I love that. And they're working with my sponsor, US Foods, to distribute. And like, this is the kind of stuff that I love, because it's like, I don't have to bullshit people. I can just say, like, look how cool this is. These options are out there.
You also don't just have to take it. What you're talking about happens as a reaction to people's desire for it, right? So nobody's a better steward for the food industry or for the environment than these people who grow the food.
Right.
But they have to hear that you have a desire for it and there's a demand for it, and I promise you they'll react. And these companies, like you mentioned, these farms like you mentioned,
we have to create awareness that they're out there and there are options.
Create awareness you're out there. They have to know that there's demand on the backside to it too, because they'll do it.
They are being carried by mainstream distributors.
You bet.
Like US Foods that are out there.
Yeah, US Foods is a good example. They'll carry anything that you want to supply into your restaurant.
If you want it and there's a demand for it,
got to show the demand. Show the demand. But
this is how the restaurant industry can change the world.
It sure can.
Like in a capitalistic market, supply and demand, right? Mm-hmm. But what the question is, what are we demanding?
Yep.
And I think that's where we can start to really influence our future. Is what do we want?
Make it known. Yeah. Make it known. Again,
great way to wrap this
know better about what your business and your customers want than anybody else does. Let us know it.
If we're interested in RTI, what's the call to action?
RTI-inc.com. Just check us out. We are located everywhere in the country. Yeah. 41 depots. If there's a city near you, probably there. We're sparsely populated locations. Maybe we don't go in, but if you want to know more, you get on our website and look at it. We have phone numbers for every depot. Contact a salesperson. I promise you there's one in your area.
And you don't even have to, sorry to cut you
short. No. And don't hesitate to ask the questions, because our guys get to you, guys and gals get to you fast.
Clearly they have a network of experts on their team. You were very insightful today. Thank you very much, Ron. And you don't even have to go to that website, because if you just scroll down on your player, we have that link in our show notes, because you are a sponsor. So you can use that link. Please let them know Restaurant Unstoppable sent you their way, because it helps prove that this podcast has weight.
Yep.
So Thanks in advance. And this is where I say, Ron, there is no questioning that you and RTI are unstoppable.
Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun.
Cheers.